wife, and as a mother.
Something always had my back in painful times.
For fevers, headaches, muscle aches, and backaches, the recommendation is
Panadol.
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 Panadol. Pharmanova, saving lives since 1980.
Whether ni mayadi olokombo ni bako kota matobo never tired ngani bono yeba sheta bono manone sipango no buno.
Well, we're already 16 days in the month of January 2026. Welcome to Friday's edition of Diamond Live. Tonight, we're taking a look at the just ended Chawama by-election, and would like you to be a part of tonight's conversation on Diamond Live. I'm Cheswa Kapasa.
I'm Chimweka Andrew.
And my name is Andrew Mwansa.
Well, gentlemen, it's a Friday, and one of those days where I have no option but...
I'm wondering why you are dressed very formal on a Friday.
And I was going there. I'm saying I have no option because I was obviously on the news desk. I would have loved to be, to loosen up a little, like yourselves.
Well, I think it was going to be a wise decision. But nevertheless, we still accept you the way you've come on the table.
Wait, have you been formally dressed the whole day? Because we had a workshop earlier today. That's why Andrew and I have quite informal attire. But you came wearing. I never really paid attention to what you were wearing.
No, I wasn't really formally dressed.
Okay.
So put it as smart casual, but one of those things where you have to always carry an outfit.
Moving wardrobe lifestyle.
Speaking of that, I don't know if I've seen Cheswa in complete casual.
Really?
Because even at some social place, you'd come with a jacket. With a bottle.
I should have seen that one coming. We should have seen that it was a setup for something. But
take it as a very bad joke.
No, it's not a bad joke.
We understand people haven't done journalism, but they've done political science. And
am I lying?
They come here.
Well, I would like to distance myself from this conversation. The same way Mr. Robert Chavinga has been trying to distance his faction of the party from certain members of the Patriotic Front. And now that leads us to our conversation for tonight, the Chawama by-election, the results that came in as early as 3 in the morning today.
Yeah, I mean, the president has congratulated the new member of parliament in Bright Nundwe, and it's been, people have been congratulating him. He stood on the FDD ticket, but that's one of the things that we'll be talking about. But we'd like to start the show, of course, with Today in a Snap. Well, I mean, it's all celebrations in Chawama, and we did see the likes of Honorable Given Luwinda. You've got the new member of parliament from the who stood on the FDD ticket, Bright Nundwe, and Honorable Mao Sampa and the rest of the team. You could see this celebrations. They took a drive into Chawama just to say thank you to the voters. They say that they've secured this seat on behalf of they say that the Tonse Alliance have successfully secured this seat. And I think much of the campaign message, if you've paid attention to Honorable Given Luwinda, they say that they did not want to let the Lungu family down. They wanted to do this for Honorable Tasila Lungu because they felt that Honorable Tasila Lungu was unfairly treated, and that's much of the message that we were hearing in Chawama from the Tonse Alliance team, and that's them just celebrating the victory there.
Well, that's congratulations to the FDD. Obviously, being used as a special, purpose vehicle for the Tonse Alliance. But I think the three faces that we've consistently seen campaign for the member of parliament that has won these elections, Given Luwinda, Acting Patriotic Front President, Faction President Chimweka Andrew Mwansa, member of the Central Committee of the Patriotic Front, as well as Mao Sampa. These have been the faces that the people of Chawama have been seeing the past few weeks, consistently campaigning on the message of Edgar Lungu and the fact that the spirit of Edgar Lungu has not died, reminding the people that the reason for why Chawama is like this was because of the efforts that Edgar Lungu put in. Come on, the Chawama has been a stronghold of the Patriotic Front since the early 2001, and until now. And so what I see in here, even as much as we attribute it to the Tonse Alliance, I'm seeing typical Patriotic Front. A member
from 2006, actually,
2006,
for the Patriotic Front.
Yeah, it was FDD, then, the Patriotic Front. They've been holding it down until, now again when the FDD has won it back. Quite a lot to say about the Chawama parliamentary by-election, and I would love to start with Given Luwinda. I think this was a real test for Given Luwinda. This is amidst confusion in an alliance that he's carried from the time that it was formed. He's been actively part of the alliance together with President Edgar Lungu. When President Edgar Lungu went to South Africa, he was left as acting chairman of the alliance. When President Lungu died, there was confusion within the Tonse Alliance until very few days ago when another faction of the Tonse Alliance took over and expelled the Given Luwinda PF-led movement from the Tonse Alliance, and then he goes into Chawama, and I think it was about time to prove himself that, number one, his influence still spans across the country. Even in Chawama, he can still campaign for a candidate, and the candidate wins. And I think for me, this was a litmus test for his popularity.
From Mr. Given Luwinda's popularity?
Yes, and I'm tackling individuals by individuals. For Given Luwinda, this was a very important election for him because it comes in the midst of him being expelled from the Tonse Alliance, and so also him having conflicts within the Patriotic Front and others alleging that is not popular on the ground, that is not popular within the structures, within the far and ranks of the Patriotic Front. And so he goes in as a face in Tonse Alliance as part of the managers that manage the candidate in Chawama, and managed to deliver Chawama for both the Patriotic Front and the and the FDD. And so for me, this just places him at.
Okay, I'd like for us to tackle the other two briefly because you spend quite a lot of time on Mr. Luwinda. Please tackle the.
It was very important for Given Luwinda. For Chimweka Andrew, this is a gentleman that comes from jail. I think
sounds quite a bit funny to say, isn't it?
But I think what people thought was that Chimweka Andrew was going to be quiet, because of what he had been through. While he's in jail, he lost his before
brothers.
He went to jail, he lost his brothers, and so he thought he was going to take a backseat. But he comes with vigor,
He looked quite fit as he was doing this.
Yes. He looked quite fit, as he was doing this.
Quite fit and healthy.
And I think I remember you, Chimweka, asking me,
he was in bad shape when he was when he was going to court.
He was quite sick.
And even when he was leaving, prison, you could see that he was really in bad shape. But picked up just before the election and into Chawama. He was up and running. Honorable Kambwili was up and running.
Mao Sampa has been, I think I would describe him as being very repentant, to what he did to the Patriotic Front. And I think from the time that he handed over the Patriotic Front to Edgar Lungu, he has been very loyal, very disciplined, and very repentant. He's been by the sides of Given Lwinda from the time that he went to apologize to the party for what had transpired, at the Radisson Blu when he took over the party. And he knows that he did something that has costed democracy in our country. He knew that he knows that he did something that has costed the Patriotic Front, their party. And so the only thing he could do for now is to become loyal to those that are in the party. And so we see him strong every day, campaigning in Chawama.
Having his vehicle screen broken, according to a video he shared.
And we saw him putting up a very strong campaign, in Chawama. And so for me, given that Chimweka Andrew Mwansa, I think these are the individuals that we must give it to when it comes to what they did in Chawama for the Patriotic Front.
Speaking of Dr. Chimweka Andrew, I remember I was asked, Andrew and I, we had a conversation about him leading to this election, and Andrew made an interesting comment about the influence that Dr. Chimweka Andrew has in Zambian politics, really, and him being a heavyweight. Others might see him as a finished politician, a retired politician, or should be retired politician. But Andrew made reference to, some of the impact he's had in previous elections. Let's not forget that the time when there was a by-election in Ron, he used his influence to ensure that there was the candidate he was campaigning for got elected by the people there, and still showed the love that people had for him and under the NDC. But it's an interesting story, because there's a very similar story with the Forum for Democracy and Development, FDD, because the founder of the FDD, the late Christon Tembo, may so God rest in peace, came through from the MMD, and he was Member of Parliament in Chawama. From 1991, he was Member of Parliament. He served for about 10 years.
Yep.
When he left the MMD, formed the FDD, had a candidate contest in Chawama under the FDD ticket, and that person won. You see from that pattern. So in a similar fashion, and that's why even as the FDD have won now, it's not the first time that they've held the seat, because in 2001 we got to see that this seat was occupied by, just trying to remember the name of the candidate, and lost the name there, but Geoffrey Samukonga actually came through then. And since about 2006, the Patriotic Front have occupied the seat.
We already have phone calls that people already want to contribute.
Well, let's get to hear from the callers.
Let's hear from Solwezi as our first caller. Good evening, you're through to Diamond Live. Your quick thoughts. Bernard, go ahead with your contribution tonight. That's a call from Solwezi. But talking about the names that you raise, Andrew, I'm just thinking, were these names really factors in this election? Was the FDD? Yes, the FDD was being used as a special purpose vehicle. And I was just having a conversation with Darius just before he left about how the PF still remains quite a factor in either by-elections or even the coming election, because they still have the numbers in Parliament. They still try to drive numbers. Yes, Mao Sampa these have been seasoned politicians, that Chimweka Andrew, Honorable Given Lwinda, these have been experienced politicians, but did they really play a role?
Before Andrew comes in on that, it's going to be interesting to see how the trajectory will be for the rest of the year, because we're already getting reports that there's a possibility that this particular election could be petitioned. It's yet subject to be confirmed, but they're already getting some reports that are emerging that there's a possibility. And the argument that those who agree with that narrative are saying is the Patriotic Front were using the flashing the regalia. People were wearing party regalia, and the Election Commission of Zambia have reminded candidates and those who are in the process of campaigning to avoid that, because there is a law that is in place. And again, even those who talk about this law and those who are against this law, especially from the current opposition, also tend to be reminded that this was actually enacted when the previous government was in power, the previous regime was in power. But those are laws that exist, and the Election Commission of Zambia have continued to remind people about this. But what is going to be even interesting about this particular law, and if people get to use that argument, we've also seen people from the UPND alliance who have come through with their party regalia, but campaigning for the UPND. Case in point is the now New Nation Party, which was formerly the MMD. We've seen people like Dr. Nevas Mumba campaigning in Chawama for the UPND, but wearing their party regalia and so on. So we've gotten to see that happen. And the ECZ is not talking about this for the first time. They've talked about this from previous elections. But we're still seeing political parties doing that. The opposition to the PF have been doing that. So have those from the UPND Alliance, case in point from the NNP.
Before you come in, Andrew, let's pick Chipata. They're calling us this evening. Good evening, you're through to Diamond Live.
Yes, evening, how are you?
Very well. Please give us your thoughts, Enoch.
Sorry?
Go ahead with your contribution, Enoch.
Yeah, my contribution is that, first and foremost, what happened in Chawama, people may think as if it was just maybe something that they never expected, because people realized to say, this is the government that we thought could retrieve us from the challenges that we are going through. Now, it's very unfortunate that the expectations of the people and the outcome that the UPND government have given back to the people, to the Zambian people, is different. So people came to realize to say, oh, we messed up. These are the people we thought they were not good, despite that there was some brutality, those beatings, because what was just made the people to say, no, we are fed up with PF, it's because of the beatings somehow. So now people came to realize to say, despite these things happened in the previous government, and what we have been given by this government of the UPND is totally different. If we look at the road shedding, how many jobs have been destroyed in 4 good years? Yes, they may say no, road shedding is no longer there. So now, how many things have been destroyed in 4 good years? All those things people have been looking at. And the promises that they promised the Zambian people. And looking at again at Edgar Lungu, what has happened to Edgar Lungu. And they went ahead and taking the seat for his daughter. So people started realizing to say, these people, they didn't come to save us, but just to make themselves better. So Chawama people realized to say, we made a mistake.
Okay. Thank you very much
Yes.
for coming through, Mr. Chishala, and giving us your contribution from Chipata this evening. You can also get in touch with us using the number that's showing on your screen. You can also leave a comment via our Facebook page where we are streaming live on Diamond TV Online.
Talking about Chawama, Morgan Munda has accepted defeat. In a statement, he has accepted the results of this particular election and has pledged to continue working united with the party, preaching peace. I should say, I think Chawama has been one of the most fewest elections that I've seen peaceful. Not much violence. Yes, we did see, Mao Sampa suggest that his van was broken. His windscreen was broken there, but not much of violence that we see. I think it was one of the most peaceful and fair elections, so to say. And it's incredible that There was no bloodshed. There was no candidate complaining much of the outcome of this particular election.
I think there's two things to explain why and I've been pondering on why we didn't have any political violence being recorded, in Chawama. And I think for me, my conclusion has been that, have you noticed that every time there's a by-election in the rural area, that's when we hear pockets of violence, but also not with the extent that we used to hear them in the previous government. I've come to the realization that the reason for why we hear political violence when it's in a rural area is because these major political parties in the UPND and the Patriotic Front would export cadres from Lusaka to get into those rural areas, and when these people clash there, that's when we have these fights. We see less in the rural setup, in the urban setup, because they see no need to transport cadres from the copper belt to come into Lusaka, and I think
But does that analogy really apply? Because I mean, if you're saying they transport people to the rural areas, where they're coming from? The urban areas?
Yes, they're coming from Lusaka.
So now, when they're in the urban areas and they're in their home, where they should fight more.
Rife, actually.
Exactly. From that analogy, it means they should fight more in Lusaka.
I think my explanation is that in Chawama, people know each other. All right? The UPND are not looking at transporting cadres from the copper belt to come and campaign in Chawama. Their people are staying within Chawama itself there. And so the difference is that you have Patriotic Front that would transport cadres from here to
from Lusaka to
Mwense.
To Mwense.
You have UPND transporting cadres. You have
from Lusaka to Mwense.
Those are the ones that are going to campaign.
So meaning these two political parties would transport people from Lusaka to, for example, Mwense, right? Mm-hmm. So now what happens in Lusaka? So meaning when they're in Lusaka, all of a sudden they don't want to fight. They only want to fight when they are taken to rural areas.
So in Lusaka, these political parties already have structures. These structures are the ones that are campaigning for the respective political players that are running as candidates, and so they don't see need to transport cadres from elsewhere.
But that's the thing. So the argument is, these are the same people. So in Mwense they fight, but when they're in Lusaka, they don't see any need to fight.
Look, in Mwense they don't have structures. The people that
but it's the same people who are transported, right? What you're saying is the people who are transported from Lusaka. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if I transport you, Andrew, from Lusaka and Cheswa from Lusaka, mm-hmm. I transport you to Mwense. When you reach there, all of a sudden, you people want to fight. You fight when you're there in Mwense. I've transported you, then you fight from there. But when you come back to Lusaka, suddenly you don't want to fight. You and Cheswa don't want to fight.
So what gets to happen usually is that they'll meet these people that live in Mwense together with people that are in Lusaka. When they combine the teams, these people don't probably know each other. They clash there, and obviously when there's the level of excitement that is there when you're in you're in an area that you're not usually in. When you cross paths, you want to show who has the authority. But in Lusaka here, the situation is different because the people, if anything, the by-elections that we've had, where the UPN and PF have not transported cadres, we hear less, of incidents of political violence. But coming to my case, I didn't think the UPND was going to win this election because of several factors. Yes, because of several factors. This was a huge mountain to climb for the UPND. Number one, like Chimweka rightly put it, from 2006, this has been the Patriotic Front stronghold. This seat was once held by the former Republican president, then thereafter his daughter. Circumstances that surround these elections. Number one,
those Mr. Lawrence Chalwe.
Yes.
After the late, who was also actually campaign manager for Mr. Bright Nundwe, who's now just won.
So this was a seat that has been predominantly for the Patriotic Front. Tasila Lungu is ousted out of the seat because of issues of the fact that she wasn't reporting, to Parliament because she needed to have more time, for her father to be buried. And so the people of Chawama know that probably Tasila Lungu has unfairly been ousted out of the seat. But also, more so, we have his father, who was former member of parliament for this constituency, who hasn't yet been buried. All right? All those factors put together, obviously the sympathy vote was also part of what led for people to vote in this particular pattern. Edgar Lungu hasn't been laid to rest. This seat, belonged to, his daughter. And so most of them felt that they couldn't betray the spirit of Edgar Lungu. They couldn't betray Edgar Lungu hasn't yet been buried. They couldn't betray, Tasila Lungu, who has been with them. In fact, if you look at Chawama now, it's at a better place than most of these rural parts of our country, most of these compounds of our country. There's a level 1 hospital in Chawama. There's tarmacs in Chawama. And speaking about development, I think they are far much better than most of the compounds that we have around Lusaka. And so the Patriotic Front campaigning in this by-election was stating that, look, we've done so much for this particular constituency. They would mention the things that they've done for this. So they related much more with the people.
And on that note, which now begs the question, should the UPND really beat themselves for not scooping this seat? Because I think a lot of people have laughed at the UPND, are mocking the UPND, but now we are seeing certain supporters of the UPND coming out and saying, well, first of all, they don't deserve to be laughed at for not winning this particular seat. Yes, they are the ruling party, but this has predominantly been a Patriotic Front stronghold. They've held this seat from 2006, and they've just been exchanging. Violet Sampa, late President Edgar Lungu came through. You have Lois Chalwe. He even brings in his daughter in the process. That's how probably confident they've been about this seat, that they've been able to bring different people. Even Mr. Bright Nundwe has actually been wanting to take up this particular seat. He's been within the structures of the PF. Through Chawama, as he has been he's been aspiring to be a member of parliament there, but he was just not adopted. So you're looking at that from that perspective, and the UPND are trying to come in now, and they do not scoop this seat, and people are seemingly laughing at them. But from their perspective, they are looking at the margins as well. They're looking at the margins, and they feel that the gap, about 1,543 votes, they feel that if it was really that bad, the margin would have been wider, as it has been in the previous elections, where you see that there's 19,000 from the general elections, that is. So that's another argument, because those were general elections. 19,000, over 15,000, and so on.
We're going to be talking about the margins and what each candidate got before we break. But we will be seeing new faces in cabinet next year. Doreen Mwamba, Community Development Minister, earlier today was just addressing staff at the Ministry of Community Development, and she talks about quite many things that they've been able to do as a ministry in terms of CDF. She says they are on the ground. This ministry, her ministry, is one of the quite critical ministries, because they are the ones mobilizing grassroots. And she gave quite a touching farewell to members of the ministry there, that she will not be coming back as Minister of Community Development. And she says, well, she obviously would love to spend some time with grandchildren at the farm. And we could be seeing someone else at the Ministry of Community Development.
Well, I think the trending story I've seen around the story is the fact that she resigned, and I was asking, resigned from what? Also, I think it's playing on people's minds, because you can only be nominated once as a member of parliament. Obviously, she doesn't have a constituency. She's not representing any constituents. She's representing a constituency of the women, because I think part of the standards that the president chooses the people to be nominated, include that the president must choose from the marginalized in society, and mostly women are marginalized, and so that's why she was brought, to Parliament. She was speaking of what she's done, motor vehicles that she's bought, increase in social cash transfer. She was appreciating the staff that she's working with. Yeah. I don't
the cleaners, the drivers.
I don't find anything peculiar really about her living. I don't know about you, Chimo.
Well, I mean, the fact that, well, I think she's just essentially trying to say that she would take a back seat from public office. Yeah. And by public office, in this case, through ministerial position, and I guess maybe from parliamentary position, if I heard her correctly. Because, I mean, we have some nominated members of parliament who are already expressing their intention to contest as members of parliament. We have some nominated MPs now who are already looking at being possibly adopted for a parliamentary seat. And especially now that we're looking at delimitation, the dividing of the different constituencies, we're going to see an increase in the number of constituencies in Zambia. So this might give an opportunity to certain leaders or even those who are currently nominated as members of parliament to possibly be to contest, and if they do a great job, or if they convince the electorate in those particular constituencies, possibly be elected, and maybe they could still maintain a ministerial position. But I guess what we also see, especially the delimitation, with the increased number of members of parliament in the National Assembly, I guess this will also widen President Hakainde Hichilema's pool to pick from in terms of ministerial positions. I think that's one of the challenges that probably our leaders at presidential level have maybe struggled with, where they have to pick from a select number of people in the National Assembly.
So you're stating that in an event that the UPND win again,
that's an event that the UPND get to win again, because I mean, even from their perspective, they are probably making these plans in the hope that they get to win. But I mean, only that will only be seen in August after people get to vote. And oh, by the way, I almost forgot this. It'd be interesting to see before Parliament dissolves, because she's already expressed that she doesn't plan to come back. Before the National Assembly dissolves, I wonder if we'll have a law that will look at defilers being castrated, as she promised. She made a pledge. She told people that she will push for this to be law.
Perhaps that could be one of the tasks that she must do before
the last session of Parliament, which I see as an impossibility and political risk.
I see
it as an impossibility, as something that is not practical, and mere political rhetoric in that moment to just excite people.
So you don't think that
it can happen?
You think it's a bad law?
It can happen.
It can happen.
It can't.
Why not?
That's against human rights. It's. I don't think there's anybody who can vote for that law to even be passed. Do you know any country that has that law?
Well, if Zambia could be the first.
I mean, Zambia's been the first at many things, so...
I don't think. I think we need to be objective and realistic as we're discussing these issues.
Well, I mean, we're just making reference to what she mentioned, but I mean, all the best to her. She possibly should be given maybe foreign service diplomats.
Well, she says she wants to spend time with grandchildren at the farm.
Grandchildren,
so, yeah. I mean, we're going to be talking, in depth the Chawama by-election. Does this win for the opposition really mean, or a signal? Does this mean that the opposition is relevant ahead of the August election this year? We'll be talking about that after this.
What is greatness? For Ruth, greatness is Barbara Banda. But to be great, one must fight and not let anything get in the way. so that tomorrow we become great.
For her to be like Barbara Banda tomorrow, I make sure I protect her today.
Trust Hygienix to protect your everyday. Hygienix. Protection today, greatness tomorrow.
In order to give road users easy access to insurance and road tax, Madison General Insurance Company Limited and RATSA have introduced QR code certificates. This means you can print road tax and insurance on standard white A4 paper. But how do you make sure your certificates are valid? Easy! Here's how. Only buy from authorized sales representatives, accredited insurance brokers, or directly from our offices. Buy insurance and road tax online from online.madison.co.zm. Scan your certificates using a QR code scanner, which can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the App Store.
Call 4848. MGen, it's worth it.
Mwanamai who died. Mwenga tisimiri ndishini ndani. Ziwanga patako ni anomzanga anyway.
So mwauka kusenseni basi mkumwa mwashuwa.
Biologically, most na paper.
Can we take him for rehab?
Inapita stage yanu yoyeka moba mzaka afa socha bina moba mtupi.
Ati wanakugwira chikororo.
Nina mwana huyo saenda. Nina yesa. Wakati aoneko mwana achiteko the sentence.
Tunanyobana na bwino tini. Watu wanapendela kwa imana mangalani.
Diri ulampensha. Hello.
Go through it. Are you blind? You don't know how to read?
No. I am literally upset.
What's better than your bestie? A bestie with blockbusters and bedtime cartoons. GoTV streams your fave soaps, sports, and the loudest laughs. No extra charge, just internet connection. Your shows, your vibes, your anytime, anywhere bestie. GoTV Stream. Download it now.
Meet Lucy, a dedicated professional. Her days are filled with meetings and deadlines, but there is one thing on her mind: getting motor insurance for her brand new car.
But I need to get my insurance done though.
As Lucy begins her car journey, excitement fills the air. But she knows there is something crucial missing: safety and protection. The fear of being pulled over by traffic police looms over Lucy. She dreads the complicated and time-consuming process of getting insurance. Will she find a solution? Enters MGen on my WhatsApp. Just a chat away, this service transforms the way you buy motor insurance. It's not just efficient, it's also extremely convenient. With MGen on my WhatsApp, Lucy can now focus on what truly matters: her journey, her ambition. Insurance simplified. Text HI to MGen on my WhatsApp to easily buy, renew, or validate your insurance. When it's worth it, it's worth talking about.
The digital migration continues, and Africa is at the verge of the new digital rise.
There is a new generation of leaders who are challenging the status quo.
They see more than just today's business challenges. They see tomorrow's solutions.
Who said we couldn't build a state-of-the-art data center to house thousands of digital businesses in the cloud, hosted right here in Zambia?
Zambia is on a new digital migration, and we are leading the herd of businesses to profit. Are you bold enough to reinvent your business?
Well, tonight would like you to tell us what you think about the just ended election, going to the FDD and the new candidate there, Bright Nundu. But let's take a look at who indeed participated in this election, and would like to show you 9 candidates and just around 4 candidates of those that participated in the 2021 election. There's a very good turnout, but a low voter turnout in this by-election compared to the 2021 election.
Let's start from there, right? Because, excuse me, this has been noted as a trend when we talk about by-elections. I think we always say that, low voter turnout, voter apathy. I think
the time frame to campaign.
And people try to make comparisons with general elections, but let's remember that with general elections, the day of voting is pretty much a public holiday. So people, employers, even themselves, they allow their employees to go out there to vote. Sometimes for a lot of organizations, they're not even expected to report for work. Maybe just the exception of essential workers, but even they have special privileges sometimes. If talk about maybe skipping the lines and so on. But most people you have time. If it's a Thursday on the 13th of August, 2026, you already know that day will be dedicated towards voting. But when we talk about a by-election, it still happens on a Thursday, and it's a working day, and people are trying to make ends meet. People are trying to make money. Sometimes, if we actually, when we interact with people, you find that some employers don't even really prioritize that for their employees. They don't take that as serious. And for some people, even just themselves, they're not even as interested to go out there for various reasons. Maybe it's just information fatigue, it's political fatigue. There could be varying reasons, but one of I think the factors is that it's just an ordinary day and people expect it to show up. And some people do not understand to its fullest extent the civic duty they have to go and vote. So maybe there needs to be, if there could be possible considerations for maybe like a weekend. Maybe we could see more numbers because people have more time on their hands to go and vote.
I mean, look at the NDC there coming out last with 93, and I would like to say, I mean, we've seen. I think you and I, Andrew, last time were talking about not just political parties that say they're a factor within the political landscape, but those that will also, participate in a general election or a by-election, like to put it that way. We featured Ntazana, who is a candidate who says that he was the only one from the leadership movement that is born and bred in Chawama. I was quite optimistic of seeing him perform well, but very, very surprising that he's coming at the bottom there of the ladder.
Well, we see the EPP getting, this is in Ndiweni, Alfred getting 239. The NCP, Mutete Mohammed, very confident going into this election with their party leader, Peter Chanda, who were all saying that they're the only ones that are allowed to use the Edgar Lungu Chitenge and face on the campaign trail, getting to get a meager 319 votes. We see Siatwambo Elijah, an independent, performing not too bad, getting 428.
Colleagues, before we carry on, I've been wondering, is he related to...
Yes, he is. Yes, Siatwambo, yes, that's a brother.
Oh, that's the young brother?
Yeah, yes. We have Mwenya George, an independent as well, who gets 466. Then we have...
By the way, we're talking about independent. I think independent candidates have performed quite impressively, to be honest.
Than those who are in the political party tickets. Some of those on the political party tickets.
Yeah.
But let's also remember for Mwenya George, he stood as an independent, but he was being supported and backed by the Movement for Good Governance, which is being led by the Nkana Member of Parliament, Binwo Mpundu. So he stood as an independent, but he was being flanked by the Movement for Good Governance, Chavaiche, as he gets to call it. So that's Mwenya George who came out in fourth position there.
Coming out fourth position, it also shows the influence that Chavaiche is getting to have on the political landscape. Then we have the Citizens First getting 1,534. I was having an interview with their president 2 days before the election, and he told me that the results in Chawama, will show people how popular the CF is. But I think looking at his votes, I don't think he was telling me the truth.
Well,
but Andrew, I mean,
no, because according to him, they're going to win.
Oh, okay. Because he said it will show how popular they are. Maybe that's how popular they are. So, that statement could still stand. This is how popular they are.
Then we've got the UPND.
But before we go to the UPND, I think it's quite impressive for him to even come out third. Honestly, I mean, you have had candidates that have participated.
Let me just go to what it told me.
in by-elections and the citizens first, really, not much of a new political party, but I think that coming out third seems to have
but Cheswa, you see, even like in a classroom, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to talk about coming out third or whatever position, but it's another thing to talk about what you actually got
as a result.
Because, for example, even in the general election for Mr. Harry Kalaba, I mean, the top two were getting results in the millions. That was not the case
Can you explain
for him. But he came out third. So you can take pride in coming out. You can take. Sometimes sometimes people even take pride in coming out first.
Yeah.
Because, for example, if you get 39% and you're top of your class,
you're still below the belt.
You've still failed to mean you failed.
Yeah.
But you're top of the class. So sometimes it's not really exactly about the positions, but it's about the results and what the numbers actually are showing.
In this interview, President Kalaba told me, and I'm quoting him word for word, he told me, Andrew, Chawama is going to tell the nation exactly that CF is a party of choice. This is what President Kalaba, told me in an interview that I had with him 2 days ago. And so when he went to campaign, in fact, on that very day I had an interview with him, he had gone into Chawama. He had hundreds of people that were following him. And I think, obviously, that wasn't a true reflection of what the election results showed. It just showed that people were following him because of wanting to be a part of a group that is following a political leader, and that didn't reflect on the vote cast or the vote that he got. We have the UPND, Morgan Munda, who was second choice for the UPND because initially they had a different candidate in Kantengwa. But it was realized a day after, in fact, on the very day that he didn't have a valid voter's card. He didn't vote in the last election. He didn't have a valid vote. So that to change a candidate. That's why they brought in Morgan Munda.
Now, Mr. Morgan Munda,
would the first candidate that the UPND, the candidate they had picked, would that have changed?
Well, would never know. Would never know, especially that it's passed. But now, I'm thinking to myself, the fact that Mr. Morgan Munda, who was not the first choice candidate, and has lost this, or has not won, let's put it that way, he's not won this particular election or this seat, could he be adopted in a few months to come? Because we know that soon we'll go back to the adoption process ahead of the August general election.
But I think the party has got many options, to be honest. I mean, would that be fair to, well, I mean, they will probably also be looking at the numbers and the circumstances that might have.
But you know why that argument stands? Because during this process, they've been moving around with him, pretty much campaigning for him, and more people have gotten to know him. So if for example, he had to be adopted, it would be a continuation of that. Because if they choose a different candidate, they're starting all over again. But if they had to go with him, it would be a continuation of what they've already started.
But I feel that he's had his shot.
And amplify that.
I feel that he's had his shot. There are many other candidates, Chimweka, that on the ground go and campaign and go around. I mean, and for a candidate to be picked even at party level, it means that they are popular. But candidates that weren't picked and are popular.
But can we compare the magnitude to which this has happened with Mr. Morgan Munda for those people?
I wonder where Potiphar Tembo is, because
he was sent to diplomatic service.
Probably, he would have done a much more better job here. But like you rightly put it, there's so many other options to choose from. There's Sikasote there. There's about 2 more people that I know who had expressed interest in wanting to be adopted. Whether Morgan Munda is going to be adopted, I think only time will tell, because there are primaries that take place before candidates are adopted, and they look at the popularity. But the winner of this election is Nundwe Bright of the FDT, who got 8,085. 8,085.
You seem to understand Andrew Mwansa struggles with numbers, so I don't know why we let him do this. Let me assist you. So 8,085 for the I don't know, why do we leave this to Andrew to do that? 8,085 with the votes received from Mr. Brighton. You can carry on. We've sorted out the numbers. You can carry on.
The difference is about 1,500, which is a huge, margin to leave the UPND on. But let's talk about this particular by-election in detail.
And before you go in detail, I mean, Bright Nundwe also has quite a tight time before Parliament, can be dissolved. So he also perhaps is one who's thinking, I shouldn't be too comfortable after winning this election.
Which actually reminds me, was it even necessary for the contesting candidates to speak about their manifestos? Because you just have how many?
2 months to serve, and then you.
What can you really do? Can you do much? Especially, can you do much within those 2 months? Because most of them were talking about what they'll be. And at least good enough for Mr. Brighton that is won, because imagine washing people's clothes during campaign period and
cooking in the Nshima
and you don't win. So at least that worked. People laughed at him, but some people laughed at him, but it's worked now.
Let's quickly get into it, gentlemen. The face of the UPND campaign team here was Gilbert Liswaniso and Obvious Moliteta. These youth leaders, and they were going against the likes of Given Luwinda, Chimbakambwili, and
actually, Andrew, we can't just narrow it down to those, because the UPND sent a battalion of people.
I'm saying the faces.
Faces?
Yes, the faces of the campaign team was Gilbert Liswaniso and Obvious Moliteta.
The big political figures within the campaign team.
These were the ones that were sent by the UPND, and every day they camped in Chawama. Did they fail? That is a big question. They failed at winning the election, but I think they scored in many ways in terms of what they were able to bring on the table. I saw a statement from Liswaniso that they were able to mobilize so many people ahead of these elections, but also the circumstances also that these two individuals were subjected to, I think, were so high. You speak of the fact that there are so many people in this election. I only saw, I've only seen 4 ministers going into this election, and these 4 ministers only came a few days before the election. Chairman Liswaniso was complaining of the fact that you have left only the party leaders to go into Chawama, yet you ministers are sitting in your office instead of helping, mobilize for the president and ensuring that we deliver this Chawama for the president. Out of, I don't know how many ministers the UPND have, only 4 ministers got into Chawama.
Were we expecting more?
Elias Muwanga, Felix Mtati, Mike Mposha. They were expecting more of them. In fact, there was a call by the party that if anything, all these ministers go and campaign, leave their vehicles, leave what they're supposed to do, and go and mobilize and campaign. But only 4 showed up. But they showed up at the last minute. And I think this was what the call by the youth chairman, was that they felt a bit neglected. They expected much more support from top senior government officials in terms of ministers to go and campaign in this by-election, but none of them showed up.
But the chairman say that they felt neglected with it.
And this was him in an interview.
And also even just that aspect of calling for ministers to come through has always raised. It's been a source of concern over the years in our electoral processes, because that already sounds like you're calling these people to come in their ministerial capacities, so that now they start telling. In fact, one of the names you probably missed out was
Jack Mwimbo was part of them.
Jack Mwimbo, but another name you also missed out
There's
was
Felix Ntati, Mike Imposha, Elas Muwanga, and Jack Mwimbo.
There's also Mr. Douglas Siakarema. He went there as education minister, talked about some of the works they've done in terms of free education. He was also part. So there were actually more ministers, and maybe if we were to do further interrogation, we find that there were actually more ministers who were there. But still, that in itself has raised so many questions when we talk about our electoral processes, because you have now these people coming through in the capacity of government as government officials now and using that advantage going into some of these places, and that has been the concern. Even just how people show up, are they showing up with the flags on their vehicles? Well, that has been a major concern, and you'd agree with that.
I would agree with you, but I think in this election we didn't. I think we haven't seen that record even from the opposition. I think what the opposition were complaining about was that there was millimil being sent, into Chawama, which the UPND have clarified that the millimil that was being sent into Chawama was for the foot soldiers that were camping, in Chawama, and so.
And further pictures even going around of a permanent secretary seen with, party regalia. That also been, I think, made it worse for
the UPND.
Exactly, because when people start seeing such images, it really dents now the technical aspect of things, because then now what people usually say is that they're now using government machinery
servants to
try to get people to vote for them.
Well, that's right, and I think those are issues that we need to bring out, as we analyze, this issue. But also, if you look at the population of Chawama, you realize that most of this population is a religious population. Most of them are Catholic, and most of them are from the UCZ. From the images that you are going to be able to observe when you're on the ground and observing what's happening in Chawama, you'll realize that the Catholic Church played a significant role. Let's remember that a few weeks ago, we were discussing issues of Dr. Alec Banda being called by the Drug Enforcement Commission, and the fracas, that happened, in terms of the Catholic Church thinking that this is political persecution. Already, from the political side of things, that is an assault on the Catholic Church. Now, the Catholic Church has a huge population in Chawama, and so you'd expect that the Catholic Church is not very good friends, of the UPND in Chawama, and obviously, the vote trend would not go the way of the ruling party, but of the opposition. And also remember that this is Dr. Alec Banda, who, in his will, Edgar Lungu says that he must preside over my funeral. But also, this is a man of God who many believe that had close, relations with President Edgar Lungu. And so, you'd expect that the Catholic Church and the UCZ, in Chawama, obviously could not have gone the way of the ruling party, but of the opposition. And I think for me, these are salient issues politically that we must be able to look into, when we're analyzing, the very bits of what could have transpired.
You speak of the church, Andrew. I know it's been a very huge debate. The UPNs, they argue that they are in good books with the church. They just are just following the law regarding an individual from the church. I know this whole debate continues to go on, but I just want to turn our attention also back to, again, what we observed during the process of campaigning and even on the actual day of voting, the issue of information that gets to go around. We're living in a world where there's a lot of falsehoods that go out.
Yep.
And sometimes people will be very quick to judge countries like Uganda, Tanzania, when they shut down internet services on voting day. Well, I mean, we've also had our own experience when it comes to that. Yeah. But I think one of the challenges we're facing now is there's a lot of false information that goes out. People manipulate videos. Sometimes people resurface old videos and make them seem like they're current. I think even Mr. Morgan Munda was a victim of that, where people are now portraying him to look like he was celebrating prematurely with powder on him, and yet the videos from the time he was being adopted. Yeah. But even just from now, what we saw from the Electoral Commission of Zambia, they are demanding for an apology, requesting for an apology from Mr. Mao Sampa, who accused them of putting up a sudden structure which was believed to be used for the UPND to rig the election. But this is a structure that has existed before when it comes to people voting in Chawama. But he brought this out, and the ECZ are now demanding for an apology. Will that apology be made? Does Mr. Mwansa have to make this particular apology? But this definitely speaks towards issues of the information that goes out there and the responsibility that we all play as citizens. Because at the same time, in as much as we want to communicate with people, it's very important that we don't alarm people. It's important that we keep the peace, because we've been talking about the peace in Chawama, which has been quite commendable. Even President Njilema has talked about it, that there's been peace in Chawama. But sometimes if people make alarming statements without verification, that creates a problem. Because even just that, for example, that polling station that was a tent, and he's a lawmaker, Mr. Mwansa. Before sharing that, I mean, he could have probably done some fact-checking himself and probably realized that this is something that has been in existence. But you go ahead and you share something like that, you are trying to alarm the public. And when people begin to get upset, and imagine people go to that tent and burn it down, then now we're causing chaos. And who would have incited people, who would have contributed to some of that chaos being caused? You find it still comes back to our same leaders. So in as much as people, I know sometimes politicians politic, but I think going into 2020, into the August election, a lot of lessons can be learned even just from this Chawama by-election, of things that we should not do and things that we should maintain doing going into the election. And I think this issue of information is very cardinal for all of us, because it can make or break us.
Obvious Molitata says, I mean, Chawama's by-election is just one of those, because they have won quite several other by-elections. I mean, they've won Lumezi, they've won Kabushi, Kwacha. They've won quite many by-elections, and so Chawama shouldn't really be a factor. But the opposition's victory at the moment, they seem to be taking it as a signal of some sort towards 2026, which I don't really think should be considered a very huge signal. I mean, there's been many factors that I think are in plain sight. I mean, this is a seat that's belonging to Tasila Lungu, who happens to be daughter of a former leader that has not been buried. But there's a lot of politics going around there, and people can easily be, political decisions can also, people's decisions can be can be perceived.
In your first year of political science, you'll be told that politics is about perception.
Well, that's what I'm getting to, and that it seems for Chawama, it seems to me it was also bordering around sympathy with what has happened.
But I guess that's the advantage that the opposition are riding on. I think they're trying to show that they still have some level of influence.
But they can't ride on that type of perception in 2026.
Why not?
So we are in 2026.
In August.
So gentlemen,
perhaps let's talk about the mayoral election.
Yes,
in Kasama.
A by-election.
I don't think that will go to the opposition.
Before I come to mayoral election in Kasama, a by-election is a barometer of a political party's popularity.
Is it?
Yes, it is a barometer. It's a barometer of a political party's popularity.
But has precedents shown that?
Yes.
And how is the FDD popular then in this case?
The FDD is popular because of one. The FDD is popular because
that's a barometer can be used in August as well?
So no, it's a barometer of a political party's popularity. Whether this is a litmus test of what will happen in 2026, it will depend on how the opposition picks up this win. Already, this is an election year. Any win by the opposition is very bad political sentiment to the ruling party, because in the minds of the millions of Zambians, now they believe that the opposition is alive. They believe that the opposition can win an election anywhere in the country. For the UPND, what they must do now is not to feel bad about themselves, is not for Liswaniso or Mwaliteta to cry. For them, it's time to go back in Chawama and begin to campaign if they want to.
I know in Chawama, did they cry?
I didn't see them. I didn't see them.
You didn't see them, okay.
I didn't see them. But before the end of the month, we are going to have the mayoral elections in Kasama, a very decisive election. If the UPND go in flight out to campaign and sort out their challenges, they would win. If the FDD go with the same momentum they went with in Chawama, the FDD win.
Well, that's where we end our discussion here. We've given out our opinions, and thank you to you that's also tried to call us on tonight's edition of Diamond Life. I'm Cheswa Kapasa.
I'm Chimweka Andrew
Mwansa. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.
See you on Monday.